Hi, Vlad Trifa here. I'm Chief Product Officer at Ambrosus, and as we just announced our SDKs, I wanted to do a quick demo of the kind of things you can do with it and how it works. So just to begin with, I'll show you how you create assets in Ambrosus. Here I'm using Postman, a tool that most web developers are familiar with, and I'm going to send a few API requests to AMB-NET. So the first thing I'll do is I'll create an asset. This is how I create asset. I simply have the URL. I send an object with a timestamp, and that's very straightforward. And sending that, I have a tool1 created. So now what I can see is that I have an asset ID. That asset ID, I can start browsing it, and I can look directly in our API the data about this asset. You can see there is a signature, there is a timestamp when it was created. Here's the bundle ID, which corresponds to the bundle it was packaged in when put on the Ambrosus blockchain, and that's the timestamp when it was actually uploaded. So now the second thing I want to do is I can just looking at the events around it, right? So here, I see there is 0 events on that asset, nothing interesting. So let's create some events. The first thing I'm going to do, let's say this asset is going to be a palette. So it's a simple palette. I'm creating now an event. I'm using the asset ID I have just created, and I'm going to create some information about that palette. Let's say I'm transporting some chemicals for a company. I'm going to have here some attributes, the minimum, maximum temperature it can be transported to. And this is very simple, very simple JSON document, schema-free, where you can add a lot of information, identifiers about the palette, and so on. So I'm going to create this asset, this event on the asset, and you will have a tool1 created. This is the confirmation that it was created. Now we go back here, and I'm gonna see the event I've just set. What's really nice, one of the tools we've been building with the SDK is M.2, which is a short URL viewer for assets. So I'm just gonna take the ID of the asset I've just created, go here on M.2, and I paste it, and automatically this is generated based on the data. This is just a very simple UI, right? What's really nice as well is that the URL here, it's automatically generated, takes the data from our API. What I can also do is I can take this URL, put it in a QR code, I generate it, and now I can essentially read this QR code here, and you can see, and here I have exactly the same data about the palette. So this, what you're seeing here is the iOS SDK, and this simple view here is something we've put together in a couple of days last week, which is again using the web, so the JavaScript SDK. Now let's create another type of event. Let's say this palette starts moving, or I'm going to ship that to someone. I'm in Cluj, so I'm going to use that as a reference point. I'm creating a second event right now. I'm using the timestamp in real time, and I'm going to say this asset was scanned. I can say who the operator was. You can sign, of course, this message. It's just, again, an API request, and I'm saying this needs to go to the Belvedere pharmacy. So I'm going to send it. The data has been sent. And here you see a second event. Now what's interesting, I go again on this page, just refresh it. I can see that the asset was scanned, where it was scanned, and all that information, the timestamp, and of course I can see more details about it, right? So where it was, I can see the details which I've added. Again, if I go back to the native app, I can simply go back to the scanning. I'll go back to the last one which I've just scanned. And essentially now I see this event appearing here, and this is again done with the iOS SDK in a native application. So you can use both the JavaScript one, the native iOS, and the Android, which was just released, to build a lot more complex application. So thank you for watching, and stay in the loop. Thank you.